Before we start, I just want to tell you it isn't for you. I'm humbled. I'm humbled, truly humbled. And thank you for this privilege.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I just would like to echo what Pastor Scott just said. Just lean in today. Listen for yourself. Listen for the one next to you. Because we don't do anything by ourselves. We don't do anything by ourselves. Tom Brady, I'm actually older than Tom Brady. I may not look it, but I'm actually older than him. I didn't dream about, that wasn't my dream. My dream was just to run alongside my kids one day. I always dreamed about being a dad, and I am. But I dreamed about running alongside my kids. I dreamed about being a 60-year-old old guy at the YMCA playing pickup basketball. Those were my dreams. Those were my dreams. And so my life has not unfolded the way that I had thought it would unfold. I was diagnosed with a neurological disease at the age of 32 called adrenomyeloneuropathy. You don't need to remember that. You could just remember AMN. Think amen, but AMN. And AMN primarily affects men, typically between their 20s and 50s. As I said, I was diagnosed when I was 32. And it's degenerative. And so by 2016, my wife looked at me and she said, buddy, you need to get off those sticks. You're going to fall and hit your head, and you're worth more to me alive than you are dead. So I got on January 3rd, 2017, I got into this wheelchair. But in that process, as my walking became more labored, there was fear in my heart. Was my life going to get small? Was I going to be on the sidelines as I watched everybody else be active and do their thing moving forward? So I did what strong people do. What are strong people expected to do? They're expected to look brave, look strong, press on. So I held it together. I took control and I said, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. Not necessarily for a cure, but just I was going to look good in the process. So, but that fear in doing that fear of looking strong never left me. It didn't disappear. It was there. It just took the form of being in control. I thought fear was the problem, the fear of feeling small, of being on the side. I thought that was the problem, but God showed me something different. That fear wasn't the problem. Control, effort, and resilience, that was actually the problem. Doing those things because I was afraid, that was the problem. See, I didn't need to be fearless. I needed to stop letting fear decide how I was going to show up. It was about learning how to trust God in the really hard places and embrace the life that He had told me was available for me. The type of freedom that Jesus talked about. Whenever I get confused about what the Bible is saying, I tend to go to a paraphrase of the Bible called The Message. And in The Message, Jesus says, come and walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. I will show you the unforced rhythms of grace. You see, this freedom that Jesus is talking about is not an escape from hard things. It's not an escape from effort. It's a release from having to try so hard to escape reality. So God eventually brought me to Mount Kilimanjaro. Not as a victory story, as I'll share with you tonight. While there was moments of celebration and victory, some of my brothers and sisters who climb with me are watching on YouTube right now. There was moments of celebration and victory, but that's not the heart of the story. The story was, it was going to be a place where God was going to invite me into the life that He has for me. And that's the invitation that I have for you tonight. First and foremost, it's an invitation to follow Jesus. That first and foremost. And on the other side of that following, and saying yes to him and showing up every day to see what he's doing, to learn those unforced rhythms of grace. On the other side of that is not ease. It's not an escape from hard things. He even said to us, he goes, in this world you will have trouble. And so he's not offering an escape from any of that. But my invitation for you tonight, as you face whatever it is you're facing, is an invitation to an inner peace and an ease as you face the hard. Knowing that you serve the one who went to the cross with joy. With joy because of what was set before him. So that's my hope and my desire is leaving here as you find a new ease. One of my teachers was asked one time, very wise man, he's asked, what's the one word you would use to describe Jesus? Let me ask you, if you had to pick one word, I'm going to tell you what he said, but if you had to pick one word to describe Jesus, what would you say is the one word? What? Fearless, courageous, loving, patient. Oh, awesome words. Awesome words. And you hold on to that word. There's no wrong answer. The word my teacher said is relaxed. Relaxed. At ease. So that's my invitation to you tonight. It's a little bit more ease as you face the hard. Because that's what I'm going to take you to day 3 on the climb. So we were at this camp. If any of you have ever climbed a mountain, especially high ones, just about what the next day would hold, I wasn't thinking about the summit. I wasn't thinking about the celebration. You know what I was thinking about? Is one question. Can I do it? But the messed up thing about that question is it wasn't about the next day and the energy and the effort that it was going to require for me and my team to do the thing we had in front of us. It was about, can I look strong? How am I going to look when I do this hard thing? And that way of living, that had been my story, and it didn't survive the dark. But what did survive is something else. I wasn't alone. I was not alone in that room. I could hear people breathing. I could hear, some of you guys, if you're watching, I could hear you snoring, and I wanted to throw a boot to get you to stop snoring. I heard them shifting in their sleeping bags, and I know they were carrying their own doubts and their own fears. Some were already battling altitude sickness, feeling sick to their stomachs. And for the first time, resilience stopped being something that I had to generate inside. It became something that together, me and 32 others were holding that together. It's about community, being alongside one another. And I've resisted that. I've resisted help for so long. It felt weak. It felt limiting. I felt like I can do it. But it was liberating to look around that room and realize I wasn't alone. So what I want you to do right now is just look around. Look around this room. You are not alone in the hard thing, in the mountain that you have to climb tomorrow and the next day. You are not alone. Before we climb any more on the mountain together, I'm going to ask you to just think about the hard things that you're living with right now. Things that feel impossible. Big questions. Your addiction. Relationships that are crumbling. What's after Catalyst? Maybe you're struggling. You're carrying the heavy. And I know the desire to take on things that feel impossible. I say, okay, I'm going to power through. I'm going to do it. I'm going to perform strength. And I'm going to look strong even though I feel like I'm crumbling on the inside. So here's what the mountain taught me about carrying hard things. And what God's been trying to teach me for years is there's 2 kinds of resilience. One that looks strong and that people notice. We all know it. It might be us, but we notice it in others. It looks good. We praise it. We hold it up. We give parades for it. But there's another kind of resilience. There's a resilience that says, I'm scared and I'm still here. I'm scared and I'm still here, and you take the next step. That's the other kind of resilience that I've slowly learned about, that the mountain had taught me. And with that type of resilience, there's nothing to prove. There's nothing to earn. It's just about being honest. There's an honest type of wiser, a steadier type of resilience. So let's go back to the climb. So day one on the climb. Actually, I'm going to take you even before that. The Wednesday before the climb, I was sitting and I was preparing, I was praying, I was reading the Bible, and God gave me a conversation between Moses, him and Moses. That's recorded in Exodus 33. And in that conversation, Moses was leading the people, and they were so intimate, God and Moses. And Moses said to God, if you're not going to go up with us from this place, if your presence doesn't go with us, don't take us out of here. And then in 2 verses later, it's recorded what God said. He said, I will do the very thing you have asked because I am pleased with you and I know you by name. And those were the words that God gave me the Wednesday before I got on the plane and flew to Africa. And those were the words that I prayed over our team as we stood at the gate about to start our climb. And I want to pause before I move on. I want you to look at those last words that God said to Moses. I am pleased with you, and I know you by name. And I just want to speak that into each of your lives tonight. That God knows you by name, and he is pleased with you. There's nothing you can do to make him love you more. There's nothing you have done or will do to make him love you less. He is pleased with you, and he knows you by name. And that is the words that went up the mountain with us. And if I'm honest, I got so wrapped up in this climb that there were moments that I wasn't thinking about this, but God proved himself again and again and again. Do you know the biggest injury we had on this climb? A broken pinky toe. My friend Jason, I don't know if you're watching Jason on YouTube, he broke his pinky toe because the wheelchair fell on his toe. That's the worst injury, and I know, Jason, if you're watching, it hurt really bad. We all feel sorry for you. But you know what? People die on Kilimanjaro every climbing season. People get helicoptered out of Kilimanjaro every time people go up that mountain. And we had people get altitude sick. They got nauseous, upset stomach, throwing up. But nothing that terrible. God was with us. He went up with us on that mountain. And day one, going back to the beginning, it went to plan. Our team, 32 people, were like a machine. We were working. They were shifting. I was doing my part as best I could in the chair. And it was all going to plan. It felt great. It felt great. But God is honest with us. And he says this in his word again and again. When life gets comfortable, watch out. Watch your heart. Don't start telling yourself the story, I earned this and I've got this. But I got to tell you, we felt really good. After day one of my team members came up to me, Bill, if you're watching, I'm going to call you out. He said, excuse my language, we're going to kick Kilimanjaro's ass. We were feeling good. We were feeling good. Because everything went to plan. But then there was day two. Day two, everything changed. Everything changed. The bolts on the front wheels, they're called casters. The bolts sheared and the wheels fell off. One after the other. There's one of them laying there on the ground. Then about mid-afternoon, about 3 o'clock, my team, as hard as they were working, we realized we were going too slowly. And so the Tanzanian porters, amazing men, and a few women, amazing people, they had to take over on the chair. So my 32 team members, they supported and they aided, but the porters were the primaries on the chair. And sitting there in this chair, realizing that what we just did, the decision we make was absolutely necessary, I was watching this and I realized I could no longer manage or lead this. And it wasn't an inspiring moment. It was humbling. It disoriented us. It was like, what happened? We were so prepared. We had trained our tails off for this mountain. And here we are. My team had to let their hands off the wheelchair. And I had a choice. And hear me, this is a choice that we all have. I had a choice. I could pretend that this was still the climb that we had planned. Or I could tell the truth, that this was the climb now. Not later, not if we got back on plan, now. I had a choice to make. And all of us have this choice in our lives, especially when things are hard. We can pretend our life is what it used to be before the trial, before the addiction, before the neurological disease that takes away my ability to walk. But God doesn't call us to deny what's true. He calls us to be faithful in it, right where we are. And so I felt in my heart as I laid in bed that night on day 2, I felt being challenged to check where else in my life have I been denying reality. And I could think of when I was first diagnosed before the wheelchair. I was so proud of myself and my height. Maybe you can guess, I'm about 6'3", 200 and something pounds. I'm a big guy. I'm a little bit athletic. So my size was my pride. And every time we took a picture, I had a cane. I would hide it behind my back. And I would pretend and deny that something was changing. And my wife was so upset with me at times for living in this life of denial. So where else? Where are you denying reality? Where are you living of what you wished it would be or what you used to have, when all you have to do in this moment is tell yourself the truth about what's real? Day 3. Day 3, we were above the clouds. I wish I had a picture there, but at this moment, you can imagine, if you've ever been on an airplane, you look out, you see yourself above the clouds. That's where we were on the mountain. But we were disappointed. We were upset. And I was disappointed and upset about what happened on day 2. And about midday, we stopped to take a break, and I looked up. And this is exactly this moment. Somebody snapped a picture. We stopped, and I looked up. And there was the summit peak. This is called Kibo Peak. And I paused. And I looked at it not as something to conquer, but just as something to sit with. And I looked at it in the majesty of God. The glory of God just was overwhelming. And something broke through. I felt small for the very first time in the best possible way. That I didn't need to be the center of the story anymore. And what broke through, what softened inside me, was gratitude. I was so grateful for the people that were around me. I was so grateful to be in this majestic place. I was so grateful to be doing the thing that God had called me to do in that moment. Now, I'm going to be honest. Gratitude did not erase how I was feeling about the previous day. I was still disappointed. I was still feeling disoriented. And God doesn't erase our grief, our anger, our ups. Gratitude doesn't erase any of that. But it puts it in perspective. Gratitude puts all of that in perspective. And the climb didn't get easier, it got lighter. Hear me in that. You know, you get the difference? The climb didn't get easier. Actually, the next day was going to be the hardest day of my life. I'll tell you about that in a second. It didn't get easier. It got lighter. It got lighter. So let's go to day 4. Day 4 is summit day. And we started that day around 4:30 in the morning. We started at Kibo Hut. Remember I told you about Kibo? It was at base camp. We're sitting at around 15,400 feet. 4:30 in the morning. It's freezing, about 25, in the 20s. So there's some debate among the team about what the actual temperature was. I think it was around 25 degrees, below freezing. And so we start, and we are moving through volcanic ash that's as thick as any beach sand that you have ever walked in. If you've ever been to Galveston on the Gulf of Mexico, or in Destin on the Panhandle of Florida. I grew up in Bradenton, Florida, where the sand was nice and thick and white. It was as thick as any sand you'd ever walked in, and every inch was a struggle. And after about 6 hours, I looked at this path. This is the actual path. You can see it. This is the actual path going up Kibo Peak to the summit. And I looked at it in the slow slog that it was up to that point, and I felt desperate. Have you ever had something tough in front of you and just kind of felt desperate? Like your breath gets a little short, and the feeling I had was there's got to be another way. There's got to be, not another way, there's got to be a faster way. And we tried everything. They got me out of the chair, and the porters carried me for feet, and I'm 220 pounds. I mean, and these guys are strong, but they're not that strong. And so they carried me 3 to 4 feet, and they had to put me down. I tried to scoot up rocks on my butt, doing tricep dips up rocks. It only worked for a few feet. And I just felt, there's got to be another way. But God broke through. God broke through, and he spoke. And he said, Jeff, there are no shortcuts. Amen. Jeff, there are no shortcuts. And this is a story of my life. I look for shortcuts, not because I'm lazy, but because I'm trying to be efficient, trying to be quick and faster and get done quicker. What feels hard in the moment. And years ago, I was having one of these moments of looking for shortcuts, and God gave me, again, out of the Message translation in Matthew 7, it said there, don't look for shortcuts to God. The world is full of shortcuts and easy ways. Don't look for shortcuts for God. It's hard and rigorous. So those words on this climb, Jeff, there are no shortcuts, wasn't a warning. It wasn't God scolding me. It was invitation. That's how I took it. And the invitation is you can only walk the path you're given. So our task in facing hard things is not to find a better path. It's about choosing the path that God has laid out for you and for me. Let me say that again. It's about choosing the path. Choosing. That's the important word. Choosing the path that God has laid out for you. So, there's that line. There's that line from the Message translation in Matthew 7:13, if you want to look at that later. So we reached 2 of the 3 summit points on Kilimanjaro. There's actually, so when you hit the first one, it's considering summited, and we did it. Here we are, my small group that reached it together out of our 32. We reached Gilman's and Stella Point, and it was celebration, and it was relief. Not reach Uhuru Peak, the tallest peak in Africa. Years ago, the old version of me would have been absolutely wrecked by that decision and that reality. But sitting there that day, I wasn't asking, did I do enough? I was asking, what's true? Turning back did not make me weaker. It made me freer. Free to having to prove anything, free from bargaining, free from even needing that climb, free from it saying anything about my worth. I was totally able to totally detach from the outcome. And for the first time that I could really remember, that decision wasn't based on fear or pride. It was based on clarity. Clarity about who God is, clarity about who I am in God, and that my identity wasn't tied to that summit point. My identity, your identity is not tied to any outcome. I want to say what I said a few minutes ago. Nothing you can do can make God love you more, and nothing you can do can make God love you less. Your identity is not linked to any outcome that you might believe that it is. And so that's what I knew in this moment. That's the clarity that I had. Before the mountain, I thought resilience was about what we did. We push, we endure, we hold it together. I thought if I stayed strong for myself and for my team and for my family long enough, God would show up. The mountain stripped all that illusion away. Resilience is not what we perform under pressure. Resilience is what we practice when pressure removes all of our options. Let me say that again. It's a mouthful of words, even for me to remember. Resilience is not what we perform under pressure. Resilience is what we practice when pressure removes all of our options. The kind of resilience that is unattached to outcomes and being faithful even when the outcomes that we'd hoped for are not achieved. But that understanding wasn't fully formed on the summit. It was formed the night before back in Kibo Hut. Remember I was telling you I was laying there in the cold, all layered up, trying to sleep just a few hours before we did our summit push. And I looked around again, 11 teammates there, 22 in rooms just down the hall. And I realized something. What made that moment possible wasn't confidence. It was knowing that I had people around me that were willing to step into the hard stuff with me. I wasn't alone. And I remembered just a few days before I went to Africa, I spoke to a group of high school students that have special needs. And they asked me, what do I do when stuff feels impossible? How do you keep going? And I remembered what I told them. And quietly, to myself, I repeated what I had told them. I can do it. I can do it. And I want to give you this practice as you face the hard in your life. Would you stand with me? So tap your fingers at night. I can do it. One more time. I can do it. I can do it. We say that not as confidence. We say that not as boasting. We say that grounding in faith. Because just like Paul said to the Philippians, I can do it through Christ who strengthens me. Moment, and it doesn't always look strong. It's a practice. Can I pray with you? Father, I'm moved to my core by these men and women who have faithfully just has shown up with so many, I'm sure, so many doubts and the weight of heavy things in their life. And they didn't come to hear from some guy from New Jersey. They came to hear from you. And so I pray over my brothers and sisters. I pray that they would see you working in their lives. I pray that they would be at ease and at rest and relaxed as they face the hard. They would look to you, Jesus, to to walk with you, to work with you, to watch how you do it. We love you. We thank you. In your mighty name, Jesus said. So we're gonna talk for a few minutes, have a seat, and I'm just gonna show you. Jose's gonna show you a short video. Is it all teed up on there? All right. I'm feeling emotion in this moment because I'm so passionate about what this all means. It's about this community that came together to do this crazy, epic, iconic thing, and we did it.